Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome to Platinum League. You made it. We're in the League of Eagles, okay, if you will. If you don't know what that means, it's the symbol, okay? It's big eagle. That's what it means. So now, everything we've talked about before still applies, even now, okay? But here's the thing about Terran now. Or about all races, but we're talking about Terran because it's a Terran video. What we're going to focus on now, the big one, okay? The big one is we're going to focus on more improved and advanced scouting. Okay? More advanced, more improved scouting. So we're going to dedicate some more of our time now to scouting our opponent's base. And what are we going to do with Terran now? That's going to make this happen. We are going to send an SCV out to scout my opponent's base when we start our barracks, but now we're going to start making a unit we didn't make before. And we're not going to make it we're not going to make it to like be a badass and get tons of kills, but we're going to make a Reaper to continually give us scouting info. Yo, Young Mott, thank you very much for the 7-month sub. Welcome back. Welcome back, Young Mott, baby. What up, dude? Reaper, boys. The Grim Reaper. We're making him. So we have an SCV going to scout still. This is going to tell us if we're getting proxied or if we need to worry about some bullcrap. That could be at our base already if he's building over here. Here comes the Reaper. So if we build the gas and the barracks at the same time too, we can afford a Reaper right away. And look at this. Okay, I was going to say, look at this. Nothing, but there's a barracks here. And he's only got one gas. So he should have an expansion going down just like we do. Because the resources, the way he's built them, lines up for an expansion. And perfect. There you go. There it is. There's the expansion. If someone ever goes one barracks and that's it, and then they only also take one gas, you can expect an expand. Because their minerals are going to be very high. And there's most likely going to be some shit going down. Like, you know, some CCs. Okay, so we're still going to go for a factory. We're going to take a second engineering bay. And let's go ahead and rotate our barracks. Against Terran, since this guy's playing super standard, let's go ahead and take a tech lab. Because, you know, we can go into either cyclones or tanks. Surgical one, thank you for the sub, dude. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you. But now what we're doing, guys, is also we're going to take our second gas. We're not going to kill shit. We're just going to look at his resources. Still make SCVs while we're doing this. Still, see how we still have one gas, guys? That means we're going to be dealing with a lot of Marines. This guy is not going for some quick tech build. That's not happening. So let's go ahead and lift our factory off. And as a good way to read this, I would say this, okay? If we're understanding what's going on, this guy is prioritizing minerals. And what can Terran make with minerals? They can make a lot of Marines. They can make more command centers. They can make more SCVs. They can't really make a whole lot with no gas or low gas. So what we're going to do now, as a response to this, is we're actually going to take a third base really fast. Because here's why. I'm not worried about any, and we saw a second barracks, which reinforces the Marine thing here. We're still going to go into Hellions. We're still going to do all this other stuff. But we're going to take a third command center because there's not a whole lot he can do with pure Marines against siege tanks. He's also delayed his tech, so I'm not really worried about getting dropped. So we got to learn how much things cost, right? We'll talk more about how much things cost at the end of this game. We'll break it down in the replay, but with timers and everything. But right now, there's not a whole lot stopping us from being really greedy and doing what we're doing right now, which is making some tanks and going for a fast third CC. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. And again, it's because of what we scouted. Now we can send a Reaper back out one more time. It's a bit later on. If we send it out now, we're going to be there around like 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and see what this guy's doing. Also, let's go ahead and start an engineering bay and an armory. Siege up another tank. And make that an orbital command. Saturate my gases really fast. Okay, let's jump into his base and scout him. Keep making SCVs while this is happening. That's the important part. Okay, we got a factory. We got a starport almost done. We got Marines chasing me. We got some depots. We got gases being made. We got another barracks. We got 4 fucking barracks, and we got a tech lab on 1 making an upgrade, and we got more Marines down here. And now we know we're fighting a guy going heavy bio. So our siege tank choice has been amazing. If he attacks me, these bio units will get destroyed. Okay, let's put our third at our third, and let's start taking another command center, because we can afford another CC. We're fully saturated on 2 bases, so our money is banging right now. Making a 3rd CC was amazing. And he doesn't have one, so we're now ahead. Okay, and we can't really spend our money, guys. We are struggling to spend our money. You know, especially when we're also including the fact that we're going to be dropping some mules on this base. Our money's going to ramp up super quick. So, also we are actually supply blocked. I was not looking at that. For supply blocked, drop a fucking depot if we can. Oh my god, it's on cooldown, guys. We fucked the build up. It's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll go ahead and make a few factories though. So go ahead and make like 4 factories. And what's going to happen now is we're going to chill. We're not going to go do anything crazy. We're not going to like set up a timing or something like that. All we're going to do actually is we're going to unsiege our tanks, and we're going to split my dudes up half-half, just like we always do before. Half go to the 3rd, half stay in the natural. And rally new units to the natural too. We can start taking planetaries. So the build is still like roughly the same. But these 4 tanks we made make sense now because we knew. This is the part I want you guys to understand as to why, you know, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. The 4 tanks we made, we will not always make them anymore. We will not always do that. But we will do that if we scout what looks like some type of ground-based aggression type build. And this guy was going for multiple racks of Marines, which means very well right now he could have like 30 Marines. That's very realistic. But we're not that afraid of it because tanks are amazing against Marines. They're super good.
Add-on complete.
Let's go ahead and get smart servos, blue flame, and look, he's attacking us. So send this command center back, and just keep making shit. If the command center dies, it dies. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, it didn't die. I got high impact payload Thors. Okay, and let's just literally at this point now A-move the Marines with our dudes. Now we can A-move his tanks over here. Keep making shit. And we can also re-land our command center. And just keep the macro going. Just keep it going, boys. Keep it going. At this point now, too, it's been a little while. Let's go ahead and throw down a scan in his, like, I would say right here would be perfect, okay? And this is why. It's going to catch the edge of the 3rd base, and it's also going to see more tech in the main. So if we do it, like, right here, he has a 3rd, and we can see more barracks. Okay, so he's just going for tons of barracks.
Insufficient Vespene gas.
So if we're fighting a Terran player who's going to be really, really heavy on the bio, on the ground department of everything, what we can do is we can start going. We have a lot of Thors, right? We have a lot of Thors. Also, I'm fucking supply blocked again. God damn. Sorry, boys. What we can do is we can start making siege tanks again. How many Thors do we have? We're about to have, like, as soon as these Thors pop out of my barracks, we're going to have like 6 Thors, or like 7 Thors. And then we can just go back into making tanks again. Tanks are amazing. Tanks are better than Thors are against ground Terran armies. Like just a bunch of bio, stuff like that. Okay, we're also max on SCVs. We're 82. We're good to go. We're solid. So what we're doing is we're analyzing what he's doing. We can scan one more time in front of his 3rd maybe. Maybe we'll see his composition. Nothing, it's just his base. It's fine. But we know what he's doing. We know he's going for a bunch of bio on the ground. Get upgrades. Let's go ahead and, like I said before, start making some tanks. Oh, yeah, look at this store. Nice.
Field depleted.
In the rear, what's going on? 4 is here.
Also, we can get some sensor towers too, because we're about to move out.
Base is under attack.
Sensor towers. And also, let's build some turrets.
Yes, sir. What's our target?
Just kind of A-moved all these Thors over here to deal with this garbage. We're losing SCVs. Let's just make another like round of 6.
Upgrade.
Send my army back. Build this turret. Look at just kidding. Send it over there again.
Our SCVs are under attack.
Okay, now we're fine. All right, 82 SCVs still. We're great. Don't gotta worry about shit. Build the rest of that turret too. Come on, it's not done yet. Okay, now let's unsiege our tanks, guys. Unsiege our tanks. Hellbat Hellbat all the Hellions, and also high impact payload all the Thors. Now grab 2 Hellions, put them in Hellion mode, and right click all the bases on the map that are not the ones we already know he has. Now while we're waiting for this next thing to start, let's go ahead and make more factories just like that, so we have more shit going down.
Mineral field depleted.
Okay, he's got an army out in front of my base. Whatever. It's fine. Let's go ahead and A-move him right now. So here's the plan, right? This is what's going to happen. He's going to attack me, and we're going to A-move towards him. We're still looking at our production in the meantime, but as soon as we get close enough to really A-move him, we're going to siege our tanks. Fuck. Don't make a traffic jam. Okay, so siege the tanks, and that's it.
Upgrade complete. Mineral field.
Keep making shit. Grab all these new factories. Rally point them. Okay, we just owned his army, so group my stuff up. We're not really microing anything here. Okay, he's attacking me over here. Take all my army and just send it this way. And we can siege our 2 tanks right here. Make new SCVs because we need to. Repair my turrets and stuff. Okay, so he's backed off now. Let's go ahead and add a couple more turrets here just so that doesn't happen again, ideally. SCV count, 82 still. We're fine.
Mineral field.
We just need to really, like, take a moment here. Take a moment here, okay? And fix my bases before we really commit to this. We're good here. As soon as these guys come back, we're fine. This base is still fine. This base is way over. Let's rip off a bunch of SCVs here and send them over here. And this command center can land and fill that in.
Complete.
Now look at our money too. We have so much fucking money right now. Let's go ahead and just like throw down a bunch of CCs.
What's going on? Yep.
Just put them anywhere really. Anywhere we can fit them. Our base is kind of cluttered, but it's fine.
Mineral field.
And now let's go.
depleted.
We're just gonna go for the 3rd because we can scan here to scout these bases. Okay, look, perfect. We just found an expansion. Let's go up there. Okay, and now once again we are fighting against bio heavily, so let's keep going into siege tanks. Siege tank heavy. It's more intelligent. Get rid of these rocks. Scan once ahead before we attack, because we're paying more attention now to what the fuck composition we're fighting against. A-move towards his stuff. As soon as tanks are in range, just siege them and forget about it. Siege tanks, forget about it. Now go back to macroing just like we did before. Fix my base. Fix my base. Fix my base. Siege, or no, not siege, sorry. Make shit as we lose supply. Fix the base. Take a gas. Make a planetary. So, now that I'm not playing the game, we have a little bit more time to talk about the game, which is going to be really nice. But let's just go ahead and see what happened in this fight. And again, we had a lot of tanks in our composition because his composition, it made sense for us to have a lot of tanks because we reacted to what he was doing. We reacted to the fact that he was going mass amounts of bio, and mass bio can actually kill Thor Hellbat, especially if it's heavy Marauder and heavy siege tank. Like if it was like 8 tanks and like 20 Marauders with medevacs, and then some Marines as well, that could actually kill Thor Hellbat, like for very realistically. So the fact that we also have our own siege tanks now is important because now that we're in Platinum League, we're actually starting to think about critical thinking of like what composition makes more sense here. And again, we're going to break it down as we go throughout the game, but I guess we can just see this last fight really fast because we're here. So we move our army forward. We scan ahead. We see where he is. We see the base. We get close, and as soon as we engage, we just siege. We just siege and call it a day. Now, watch. This is what tanks will do to bio if you go tanks against bio. And granted, we do have a bit of a supply lead over here. But let's look at army supply, actually. He's got 83 army supply. We have 107. Army supplies actually aren't that different. He does have some army back here, though. His army is a bit split. He's like trying to flank me. But check this out, right? Look at, again, just look at what tanks do to bio. This is why tanks are so good in TVT against bio. Ready? It just got fucking deleted. That was one attack from each tank. All that bio is literally, look at all these body parts flying around. It just deletes bio. And now here comes the flank, right? Here comes the flank. So, there you go. We started going into siege tanks because siege tanks were an ideal. It's not mass siege tanks. It's just a good amount of them. We made like 10, 12 siege tanks because he was going heavy bio. And we knew this because we scouted him a couple times and we saw mass barracks in his base. We saw literally one factory, one starport, the rest barracks. All right, backing it up now. Let's break this game down a little bit. Excuse me, I was really thirsty. Okay, let's break this game down a little bit.
SCV ready.
So, build opener so far, standard. Standard opener so far. Okay. We go for the depot. We go barracks and gas at the same time. We send our SCV out as soon as we build the barracks to go scout his base. Like as soon as we start the barracks, our next built SCV gets rallied to his base, and then we re-rally our command center back to our own mineral line. We get to his base. We see depot and nothing else. And I also see another SCV running down his ramp in a second. This seems weird. I'm going to just throw it out there right now. This makes, and he also has another SCV right here. This somewhat makes me feel like we're not getting proxied because of the fact that he has an SCV here and he only has one SCV here. However, if this was like 8 SCVs, I would immediately be like, okay, there are barracks here. He proxied and we're getting all in right now. Or if this SCV went over to the side of my base or something, or down here, or some shit, and he started building like a bunker, I would think there is a proxied barracks here. The fact that he doesn't have a barracks in front of his base it's awkward. It makes you feel like you're getting proxied. It's just as simple as that. But we're not freaking out right now because we're scouting further into his base. But it does feel like that is a possibility now because he's missing a barracks. There should be a barracks here. But we scout a little further in, and that gets ruled out completely now. Now we know there is no... The fact that we see this barracks now, we know that there is no proxy. This is just a scout, which is fine. It's just chilling in my base. It's just a scout. And this one SCV coming down the ramp is an indicator that this dude is going to expand. And we're going to confirm that in a second with gas timing. But this SCV is very high chance it's going down to his natural to make an expansion. That is what that means. So we are already predicting what his build is from movement and also from... now, placement was awkward, but the second we found it, we see building, and now we're looking at movement of unit. It tells us what we think is about to happen. Now, to confirm this, again, we're going to go in and we're going to see resource dedication. This is big, important stuff. So and also timing of things. Number 1, his barracks is done. Our barracks is done. That's a sign that he went barracks first. This automatically, for those of you who do not know this barracks being done right now means that there is no way he could have done anything besides barracks first. He went supply depot barracks. So whenever you get lower level players and they literally don't know anything about what's going on, this is when we're going to learn build timers. Okay, this is when these analysis in Platinum League in the very beginning are probably going to be kind of long because we need to learn shit like this. If you don't know timers, get ready because we're going to talk about them. Let's look at how much a command center takes to build. Okay, A command center takes 71 seconds to build. Now let's look at a barracks. A barracks only takes 46 seconds to build. Now, how much does a command center cost? It costs 400. And how much does a barracks cost? It costs 150. The reason why this is important, okay, is if we ourselves went barracks first, and our barracks, because let me actually say this, and this will make a lot of sense. You can compare your own build to your opponent's build. Whenever, this is probably the golden rule of scouting for everyone. This is the golden rule right here. Compare your own build to your opponent. Okay? So here's the thing. Look at, like, I just built my barracks, okay? I went depot barracks. That was my build. My barracks just finished within like 7 seconds ago. If this guy would have gone for a command center first, which is 400 minerals, and it's also a very long build time, and then would have built a barracks after, there is physically no way he could have afforded a barracks being done right now if I went barracks first and have a barracks done right now. So it already tells us that this is his first building because we're comparing it to our building, which also just finished. And then you can do this with many different things. It happens in lots of ways. We'll keep talking about them as the game goes on, but we already know what his build is. We already know this is a barracks first. It's fucking impossible for it to be command center first. And the only other thing he could do at this point, because there's a tech path, there's an order of things, the only thing he could do besides barracks first is literally make a command center. Because what are you going to do if you make engineering bay first? Like, who the fuck does that? That's absolutely pointless. If the guy did that, you would just automatically win because his build is horrible. There's no reason to make an engineering bay first. So it's your choices as Terran are command center or barracks. This proves he went barracks first. We should know this. We should not be questioning this. We should know this. Because, again, we're comparing it to our own build, and it would be physically impossible with the build timer for this to be done if he went to CC first. If you would have gone CC first, this is what you should expect. Okay? Think about this. If a command center has a 400 mineral cost, and it has a 71-second build timer, and we're mining about, let's just say, we're mining about, like, 700 minerals a minute, okay? Because we're roughly going to have, like, this amount of SCVs almost the whole time. Let's just average it out and say 700 minerals a minute. Okay, think about this. We'll do quick math here. And these are things that you don't have to do the exact math, but you'll think about these in the future. This is trying to enlighten your minds here. If this guy would have went CC first, it would not start right when the barrack starts. It would start 250 minerals after. And if we were mining 700 a minute, if you do the math as to what 250 costs, if we break it back, I would say 250 costs probably like fucking right around 20 seconds, roughly. Not exact. It's what, it was even less? I can't remember. I don't know. Fuck, my math is terrible right now. But yeah. 250 is going to go up to 750. Right now, it would be exact for what it is right now. 755. Okay? So think about this. We would not be able to start the command center for 20 seconds after the barracks would have started. Okay? So if we know if we have a rough idea, okay, of as to what things cost and what things build time wise and also resource cost. If we would get to his base right now and we would have seen a command center that is 20 seconds after the barracks, and if a barracks is a 46-second build timer, we would have only had 26 seconds invested into the command center out of 71. Okay? So the command center would be like 35% of the way done or some shit like that. So we would see if this guy went to CC first, it would be like a 35-ish% command center. That's still a ways out. And also we would see like a barracks that is like just starting. The barracks right would be like right here or even here, and it would be like 10% of the completion. Does that make sense? So a lot of people that are lower level, they just don't fucking grasp the I'm just spitting everywhere now. they don't grasp the idea of what things costs, or what the costs of things, and also the build time of things. They just assume fucking everything is possible because I can't tell. Like, again, this is something we talk about a lot in my stream whenever I'm doing these kinds of series or playing games in general. I can't tell you guys how many times I see builds like this, or I see a build where I'm like, this is what he's doing. Guaranteed. There is a limitation of resources. And we know that because we understand that. And then someone always asks me the question, do you think he has a hidden base right now? What if he's got a hidden base? And I'm like, no, that's impossible. It's physically impossible to have a hidden base right now. Just like it's physically impossible to have a fucking command center right now that is also like done. Command center first if his barracks is matched up with my barracks and I went barracks first. And someone in the chat just said, what if he cuts SCVs? No. You are not going to play against somebody. When we're talking about Platinum League, okay? Here's the thing, okay? This is why that is relevant. If you play against someone in Platinum or above, okay, when we're starting to actually learn how to read someone's builds, if this guy literally made no SCVs at 12 and he started a CC and then he started a barracks, and let's just say somehow he magically shit out a barracks by the time you got here. Let's say that somehow happened. It wouldn't matter if you read the build wrong initially, because his build would be so fucking bad that you would have like 20 SCVs to 12 SCVs by the time you figured out what's going on. Like, it doesn't matter. You still win the game anyways at that point because his base blows. Like, don't ever think that. If the guy does do that, he fucking sucks anyways, and you just auto win because that is the worst way you can play this game. No one's gonna fucking do that. So literally, just delete that fucking thought from your brain. So, anyways, again, the point I'm trying to make here is comparing your build to your opponent's build, and it tells you everything, which is why in the game we just played just now, even before I saw he had a natural, I could tell you he has a natural. SCV movement, barracks time, and also, we'll hit play now, lack of 1 gas. Now let's look at this really fast. Go back for a second. Now check this out. This is the last thing you can check that'll tell you a lot of what's going on. Click on his gas. We can see he's actually mined about 100 gas. We can see that we've mined about 8, like it's very similar gas timings. We've both mined about like 80 to like 84 gas. We're like almost tied on the gas. But here's the thing too. Okay. So even though we've identified that this dude and our build have, again, the gas timing was the same. The barracks timing was the same. The lack of gas is the same. We can tell what opener he's going for, but here is the big thing, okay? This is the one thing we can look at and go, we have the advantage. Number 1, he has not started an orbital command on his command center. I'm going to tell you guys right now, that is a major priority that needs to be done. So I'm already feeling good about this game because I see he has not started an orbital and we have. Secondly, his barracks is making nothing. So even though I know he's opening the same way as we are, I know he's opening with a command center. It makes sense. There is a very high chance if he doesn't want to make anything out of the barracks that he might rush a factory he might want to go for a faster factory while also being economical with a quick natural. That is what the lack of barracks tells me. And if anyone's wondering what a barracks looks like when it's building something, look at this barracks. The lights on the front door flash, 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 flash. Look what a barracks looks like when it's not building. It just has dull fucking lights. It doesn't do anything. Look at the barracks. There will be no flashing. It just has lights on. That is not a building barracks. And now it is. Okay, so now he starts a unit as we're leaving. So we don't know what that is. It's fine. But that also, again, that's more information. If there's no unit started, we would, honestly, I would say you should assume that it's most likely going to be a Reaper. But that means that he's not going for a faster add-on. That means he's not going to go for some weird fucking timing with the tech lab. Or he's not going to go for like this fucking risky reactor and then try to make quick marines, like faster than normal because he's going for a bit of a risk in the beginning. It means he's playing standard is what this means. So far. Now we confirm the natural and we peace out. So all that scouting information, that was literally, we were in his base for all of, with our SCV for all of like 8 seconds. And we just caught so much information right there so fast. And we broke it down in a way that makes a lot of sense because once again, we compared it to our own build. And confirming this natural,
Command center upgrade complete.
put all the pieces together. What this means is right here, okay? The great reaction to this. This, like the fact that he has only one gas. There's no tech rush coming out of this guy. The fact that he has a natural started. There is no all-in coming out of this guy. Some weird fucking ground timing of like mass marines or something like that. What this means is there is nothing stopping us now from going for a decently fast third base. I'm not saying you have to make it just as a priority right this second, but we can go into a factory now and we can go right into a third CC. Because again, there's why not? We're not going to get punished for it because he's going for an economical build too.
SCV ready.
And now we come in again.
Additional supply depots.
And again, our build is the whole time it's trying to be maintained. Every time we look at our Reaper, okay? Every time we look at our Reaper, we are going back to our base. Actually, let me say it like this. This is probably easier. Before we get into his base, before we actually walk into the Terran's base with our units,
Base is
we
under
should start
attack.
things. We should do things that are going to be annoying to do in the first place. Like, for instance, don't run your Reaper up the high ground and then go back to your base and be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to swap my add-ons around. And then your Reaper suddenly runs in and dies. We did that. We literally lifted our barracks off and landed it to make a reactor before our Reaper got into his base. That is something that takes time. We should also start things like depots before we run into his base. So what that means is we do all the tasks that require us to look at our base for a second before our Reaper commits. And once our Reaper has committed, the only task we should do for a brief moment while we're in his base is 5S, 5S, 5S. Just make SCV, make SCV, make SCV. Because we don't have to look at that to do that.
Our SCVs are under additional supply depots required.
So now we're running around his base,
Add-on complete.
and we see the lack of a second gas. We see 2 barracks. And we're done.
SCV ready.
And here's what the lack of a second gas means, okay? When you go for a factory as Terran, ideally what you want to do, especially if you're gonna either one of two things, if you're gonna use the factory to make gas units, not just Hellions, or if you're gonna go for a starport right after, you ideally want to be making your refinery right as the second factory is started. You ideally want to be mining off of 2 gases by the time your factory is done. And the reason why this is because 1 gas is not really going to give you that much. It's not going to give you enough gas to sustain this. Like your units are going to be delayed if you don't take double gas at this point because these units are going to be expensive. Like siege tanks are not cheap. Cyclones are not cheap. A starport, going into a starport and then making any unit out of the starport is not cheap. Every unit in the starport costs a decent or a lot of gas. So we're throwing down the second gas when we take our factory. We confirmed there is no second gas and there's only 2 barracks. He also doesn't have an add-on on either one of them. So this is making me feel very safe. And here is why. Lack of add-on makes me think, okay, well, every second that goes by now that you're not making an add-on, sure, you're making more initial Marines because you're not wasting time on making the add-on. And we're talking like 2 or 3 minutes from now, you're actually going to end up having less Marines because you're not being as efficient with your barracks as you could be if you focused on add-ons. Like a reactor can make 2 Marines at once instead of 1 Marine. Also, I'm not afraid of a timing if he doesn't have any upgrades on the Marines like Stim Pack or Combat Shield. It makes any type of an attack seem way less intimidating. So this is even more reinforcement that makes me go, let's go for a third CC. There is no reason to be afraid here because if we make a few siege tanks, we're going to be totally fine. which is what we're already doing, right? We're already making siege tanks. But breaking this down, all of his timings to be aggressive are now delayed. And here's why. Look at his gas. He has not spent any of it. He's mining gas just like we are, but he has not spent any of his gas. The only other build that I think of that could make sense here would be if he made Reapers, like just mass Reapers or some shit. But we even saw Marines when we ran around his base, so we also know he's not making Reapers. Our Reaper passed by 2 Marines when we first got in there. So we know Reapers aren't a thing. So again, it doesn't have to be super technical now. We just confirmed there is no aggression coming out of this Terran really early. Because even if there was, our siege tanks would deny it altogether. We'd be fine. And again, you should know that because of just knowing how a bio unit trades against the siege tank when it walks towards the siege tank. We showed you in the game here at the end of it, and siege tanks are amazing at trading. They're quite good. So now our build kind of just goes back to as it was. And this is one more thing to say too. We don't have to worry too much right now about all of his unit build times and stuff like that. But we do know, we should know this. This Terran has more, he has more than enough resources to sustain what he's done so far. He has more than enough. But again, the lack of tech and the focus on an expansion. The focus on the expansion means feeling like you're getting proxied by some shit is like, that's kind of out of the question to a high degree. I'm not saying he couldn't do it, but what I am saying is a very low chance he's going to proxy something because he has made multiple production facilities in his base and he's also not prioritizing extra gas. This is a big tell right here. The thing I would be more worried about out of anything else would be that he also was going to go for a 3rd command center as the only thing that could make sense here. And instead, he's just going to throw down more production, which is fine. It's a bit late, but I think the only thing that would really make a lot of sense here would be a 3rd command center if he's going to delay a 2nd gas that long, because he's going to have a lot of just idle gas going on, and really all this means is just inefficiency. So we're not afraid of anything. We shouldn't be. Because we read the build. We know the timers of the initial timers of the build. He opened it just like we did. Do we have the ability to have a proxied starport right now? No. We could start building one. You know, we could have one that was like almost like halfway done or some shit over here, but it's not like I would already have a Banshee flying into his base. And he did the same build that we did for the opener, but again, instead of making a factory, he made a barracks. So that's even more things that should tell you, if you're wondering like, well, Terran sometimes hits me with Banshees or Liberators or whatever. His timings are delayed, so we should not be that afraid. Lack of gas means lack of tech, and also investment of more production into something like a barracks means also lack of effort in going into tech. For this, at the exact moment we scouted him. Again, every single minute that goes by, things can change. But just for the opener of the game, we shouldn't feel intimidated in any way, shape, or form. And we now also the other thing too is the final thing is, what do you guys think? This is really basic. What do you guys think multiple barracks means? If you're a Terran player, or if you're looking at fighting a Terran player, and you see them making multiple barracks, what do you think they're doing? They're going bio, probably. They're just gonna make bio units. Mass battle cruisers. So what are we doing? We're just going for a standard tank opener because it makes sense. And then we go into his base again and look at this. So like a minute later or like a minute and a half later, we once again run in with the Reaper. And this is advanced scouting. We're not trying to kill SCVs with this Reaper. We don't give a fuck about that right now. We're not trying to micro the Reaper. All we're doing is we're doing as much as we can before we run the Reaper in the base. And once we do run the Reaper in the base, this Reaper is going to run around for maybe like 10 seconds. While those 10 seconds are happening, ideally, we are not going to want to be supply blocked, which you can see we have a nice supply cushion. I can't click up there for some reason. We're gonna have a nice supply cushion, and we're just going to do things like 5SS, 4S, things like that. That's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be going crazy the second we go into his base, being like, rotate, swap, do all this shit. We should focus on the scout as well to try and keep them alive a little bit. And now check this out. What do we see? Yo, by the way, Kanan, thank you very much for the sub, dude. Welcome to the VFam. Welcome to the VFam, Kanan. Much appreciated. What do we see? We see another barracks. So now that's 3. And we also see a tech lab factory. And we see a starport that is almost done. Okay. So if I'm thinking about this logically, what is the good result of this? I would honestly see this and go, okay, it looks like we're going to see bio with maybe some tanks, because you need a tech lab to make a tank. If you here's the thing about a factory, okay? If you don't have any add-on on your factory, you can only make a Hellion and a Widowmine. If you put a reactor on your factory, you can only make a Hellion and a Widowmine. If you put a tech lab on your factory, you can make everything on the top row. You can make a Hellion, a Widowmine, a Cyclone, or a Siege Tank. You cannot make a Hellbat or a Thor until you have a tech lab and an armory. So, if we're going to break down why the fuck this guy makes a tech lab, there is a chance it could be for a Cyclone, but if he's got this many barracks before, I would assume it's probably going to be a Siege Tank. Because throwing this out there, people normally make Cyclones when they go very light on anti-air in the early stages of the game to deal with things like if your opponent goes Banshees or something like that, or Raven, or Medevac drops you. But if this guy made a bunch of Marines already, there's no real point to make a Cyclone, so most likely he's going to do something that synergizes well with bio, which is a Siege Tank. It just makes sense, right? Also, Marine Tank Medevac is like a very common style for Terran. Yo, Lucy Thusi, thank you very much for the Prime. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we can assume there's going to be a Siege Tank in here. It makes sense. It just makes sense. But this is not all we're scouting. We're going further and deeper into his base. And we also see the starport's not done yet. And just throwing this out there, quick information. No one really, realistically, is going to push you. If they're going to go for a starport, it's very rare that a Terran player is going to say to themselves, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to attack you with my whole bio army and tank before my medevacs are out. Like, I just want to attack you right before I have any type of air support and to heal my bio. Like, it's fucking not going to happen. Most people are going to fucking wait for a medevac to attack you. It just makes sense. And this applies to every matchup. If they're going to go for a starport, they're going to wait to use the starport before they attack you, is my point. There are some Terrans who will literally skip the starport and they will go for a timing. But as soon as we see this, and we also see that it's not even done yet, let's look at this, okay? This is what makes sense for a second here. We saw the starport was like 5 seconds from being done. It was almost done. Now check this out. The build time of a medevac is 30 seconds. If this guy wanted to attack me with his first medevac as fast as he could, it would take this Terran about 30 seconds to run across the map, roughly. We'll just say give him 30 seconds. We'll estimate it. And it would also take him about 30 seconds to make this medevac. So at the bare minimum, because of the starport timing we just saw, we can already look at the clock and just be like, that's an extra minute for us to not get attacked. It just makes sense. So when you see that, when I just saw that with the Reaper, it gives me this level of comfort to be like, well, we're not going to get attacked for a little while. We'll be fine. Because why the fuck would someone make a starport and then attack you before they utilize the starport? It doesn't make any sense. And exactly what someone else just said. And he probably won't move out with just one medevac anyways. That is also very true. Most people will get multiple. That is also a very true point. So my point is it reinforces that this third command center we just made can also land at my third and will be just fine. And we can utilize extra economy to take leads in this game, and we're not going to get punished for it. Okay, moving on. Let's keep going. Now we're running around his base even further. We can see more barracks without another barracks again without an add-on, but we do see one tech lab now. This is making me think that this Terran player is honestly just playing a little bit inefficient with no reactors. If he's going to make Marines, he really does need reactors. But he is getting a upgrade on the tech lab now, finally. So this just absolutely seals the deal like a fucking stamp being like, I know what it is. The mystery, any type of mystery that might have been somehow there has been absolutely solved now. Every step of the way of this game, we've been thinking biostyle, 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 biotank, biotank medevac. And now that we've seen even another barracks, we're at 4 racks now. Off of 4 racks, 1 factory, 1 starport. And we see a tech lab upgrading for the bio units. We can guarantee, we don't have to care about how long this upgrade's been going, but we can guarantee we are going to be fighting a Terran player going bio. And then losing my Reaper to a bunch of bio units seals the deal as well. Makes it even more so that that's what's happening. And we just go back to macroing as we were. Spend my money properly. Whenever we have extra money, use it.
Love you, ViBE. Reminder to all to use your free subscription with your Prime account.
Yo, Lucy, thank you also for the Prime again and for the $5 and that promo, bro. You're a boss. I'm glad you like the stream and I'm glad you like supporting it. You're a beast. I appreciate you, dude. But now we're spending our money as is. Tanks are in siege mode. We're ready for the timing that could potentially happen. And we're looking great. And now if you remember, I did say we were going to scan in a moment. We're not doing it yet. We will do it in a moment. And the reason why we scan here is because, again, we wanted to see if he was going to go for a third or not. It's important. We've already kind of figured out what his tech is. So scanning his tech again, if I was like, scan here, what's the point of this? We're going to talk about scan placement now. What would be the fucking point of being like, scan right here? What would be the point of being like, scan right here? We should already know composition. We should already know production. We know he's got mass barracks. We should also know this is looking like tank marine medevac. It's the only thing that really makes sense, because if it's not tank marine medevac, and if this was like fucking cyclone marine liberator or something, he would be absolutely fucked by a standard army that we were going to make, which is tank Thor Hellion. Like the only chance he even has is tank marine medevac, because it's the only thing that's efficient enough to actually take a real fight. So it looks like we already know what he's doing. So scouting his production and his composition is pointless now at this point. So scan placement here, 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 here. It makes no sense. None of it makes any sense. It doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Why would we would ever do that? But if we scan like right here, we can see if there is a third on the high ground where he's being safe about it, or we can see if there is a third at the third, if he's trying to keep an economy game going. So it makes a lot of sense. And if we see that this guy's going for a third, that tells us even more so that we have more time to prepare. We know this guy's going to develop into a macro game, and we can do things like continuously take bases and all this stuff. We can just keep our build flowing.
Additional supply depots required. Additional supply depots required.
Ready to raise some hell.
And now we're getting the extra money again like we talk about, so we're throwing down extra production so we can utilize that extra money we're starting to get. And for now, the big things, guys, have been discovered. Okay, we don't really need to. You don't need to every single second be like, what am I scouting? What's going on? Hold on, what's happening? You want to scout until you have a read on the game. That's really what you want to know. And so far, we have a read on the game that is, we know that tanks and Hellions will decimate his fucking composition. We're fine. We're good to go. The garbage. We're good. Defensively, we're fine. Aggressively, we don't want to be aggressive yet, but defensively, we're fine. And now look, Terran's pushing me. So we have already split our tanks, so we have a little bit of defense at both my outer bases. But now that we know where he is, we'll just go defend it. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. We actually right now, I will say this. We do not know if this is a 2-base all-in or if this is a 3-base. Like, for all we know, as soon as our Reaper died, he could have made, like, an extra factory and made multiple tanks, or he could have made, like, 3 more barracks and gone for, or, like, 2 more barracks or something and just gone for, like, this super fat all-in the entire time. That is possible. But again, things like that are not as scary as they might seem, because efficiency is one of the things right now that a lot of people don't understand. So as long as we're being efficient with our build and following all those rules we already, the habits we developed, we're still maintaining those and trying to progress them further. It doesn't matter if someone does something that is inefficient, we'll still be fine. Like, in again, the reason why we knew he was being inefficient is because we saw for like 4 minutes, all these barracks had no add-ons. And if someone's going to go for a biotiming and they don't make add-ons, that is not efficient. We also saw things like there was a late orbital, not efficient.
Base is under attack.
Raise some hell.
Upgrade. Add-on.
And there you go. That's why we split tanks up. Tanks are amazing.
Hell that. Coming through.
And then we just kind of A-move his stuff, get him out of here. If this dude did not engage his bio that way, all we would have done, this is the alternative, okay? All we would have done if he did not run his bio in this way to lose like 8 Marines or 10 Marines, and he just sat by his tanks and had like 1 tank right there shooting my command center, all we would have done is unsieged all my tanks. We could, if we don't know exactly what's there as well, we could scan him and be like, and then we can make a judgment call. We can say, I could beat that. That army's not that big. Or we could, you know, if we were like, you know what, his army's a little scary, what we could do then is we could just siege our tanks as well on the side and then just keep making stuff. That would also be fine. But really in TVT, it comes down to like whoever sieges tanks first, if both players are playing the same, that player is usually going to have an advantage. It's just kind of how it goes. But anyways, he threw his stuff away. He ran into tanks and things kind of fell apart. And another reason was we just have a more efficient build, so we are crushing supply. But right now, this Terran player just took a fight. And every single time, one player loses a big fight. Like if you defend something big, it's a great idea to check their economy. And that's what we're talking about, scan, or the scan placement. So he lost a big fight. He committed, he lost a lot of units. And now we scan the middle of his base and we go, let's just check just in case if there's anything on the high ground here that we haven't seen yet, because this is a nice open area. This also could be a great place to tuck another command center to move it later. But we also wanted to still grab the edge of the third. So putting a scan here means we're going to catch this. And we saw, oh, look at the third base. And not only do we see that there's a third base here, but let's take a look at this really fast. 1 SCV, 1 SCV, 2 SCVs, 1 SCV, 1 SCV, 1 SCV. Now, if you do the math in your head, this is not that many SCVs, guys. This is like 6 or 7 SCVs. It's 7, but you get my point. It's not many SCVs. Look at our third. Fully saturated, and then some, with full gas. This right here is an indicator that we are ahead. By the way, yo, Feather Dumps and Snack GG, thank you guys very much for the 3-month subs each. Love you, boys. Thank you. You guys are the best. But this right here, guys, this is a massive confidence booster. If you have the same, if you look at your base that is matching their base, and you go, wow, that's not very saturated. Wow, I'm fucking super saturated. You should know you are, in terms of economy, you're way ahead. And if we follow this up with the fact that we just killed one of his armies, this is how you read supply mentally. That should immediately tell you, well, if we're mining a lot more than he is, that means we're building up supply at a faster rate than he is. And if we just kind of estimate how much supply died right there, you know, we just guesstimate it. Maybe he lost like 20 supply. It doesn't have to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect. You could be like, well, if my economy is way more efficient than his, if I'm at 130 supply, he would probably be at like 113 supply because I just have more money than he does, so I'm producing units quicker than he is. And then you go, and he also lost like 20 supply. So instead of being at 113, maybe he's at like 93 or 83 or whatever. You can just kind of like mentally do the math in your head, and you can ballpark the state of the game. It makes a lot of sense if you kind of just know how to ballpark that shit in your mind. And again, you base those decisions off of, or those estimations off of worker count, comparing. Again, this is the golden rule: is you compare. You don't just look at this and go, he's got SCVs, he's got a third. That's it. I don't know. You compare it to, you are the curve, okay? It's like you're grading his build off of a curve, and you're it. If his base looked like this and your base looked like that, you go, oh fuck, he's got so many SCVs and I don't really have a lot. His supply is going to be a bit higher than mine. You should automatically assume you're behind because your opponent has been more efficient than you have been. So that's how, again, basing your opponent's build off of your own is how you can figure out if you're ahead or behind. 100% all the time. But yeah, massive confidence booster right there for us because we don't see a lot of SCVs. And now again, we're just kind of, we scouted him. That reconfirms that he is trying to play a macro game, but we're way ahead in this macro game. That feels great. So now we're going for, just more standard macro. We're going for like just our standard build we've been doing the whole time throughout bronze, silver, gold.
Center upgrade complete.
The two SCVs here are not mining this gas. They're chilling. And look at the supply now. Because we have an efficient economy, we're just ramping the supply up super hard. Things are looking great.
Our base.
And now he's launching another attack. Which, or he's getting ready to. He's doing a little bit of harass here and there. It's fine. Deal with it as it happens. Get rid of it. We're still not really microing at this stage. We're kind of still just A-moving. The only micro we're really doing is like sieging our tanks. ViBE is floating a lot of money. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it really doesn't. Build order right now it's becoming more of a thing a little bit. But at the same time, if you get a lot of money, like we're basically maxed, and as soon as you get a lot of money, you should as soon as you, I'm saying that wrong. As soon as you get close to maxing out, or you do max out, your money, if you have an efficient economy, is going to explode. Your money is going to just skyrocket, and it's going to be crazy, which is when we throw down all of our production. We get crazy on production.
Hellbat coming through.
And now let's look at our composition. We understood and we knew he was going bio this whole time, because we also, when we scanned him, not only did we see the third base, but we also saw barracks in his base. So we knew he was going really, really heavy bio. We already knew bio was there, and now he's like establishing even more bio. Bio is very apparent right now. So we're adding in a lot of tanks to our composition, and we're getting ready. We have 9 tanks overall with our army. And again, a ballparking around like somewhere right around 10 tanks. It could be 9, 10, 11. Any tank count around there is great
Mineral field depleted.
in a situation like the one we're in right now. And look, so he's getting ready to push me. He's actually fighting next to a planetary, so we kind of just destroyed his army right there. The planetary helped kill a lot of units too.
Mineral field depleted.
And that is, once again, another army that just died.
Base is
And now he's dropping me. That's another army that is dying.
Coming through.
And then we do the same habit we always had before, which is check my SCV count. It's only at 75, so what do we do in production? We make more SCVs. We fix our worker count. We're not neglecting the habits we've developed already in previous leagues that we've been in.
upgrade. Mineral
And now
field
we did try to scout him, but he ended up actually killing my scouts. So we just throw down a scan at his new bases just to see, if he, like, we can throw a scan here in the middle and we can see, does he have this base and does he have this base at the same time, because these bases are close enough together to figure that out.
Mineral
Meanwhile,
field
we're also,
add-on complete.
everything about the build that we've already been doing before. It still applies. It doesn't go away. We're just throwing down a bunch of extra CCs. We're throwing down extra factories so we can remax, and we can also get crazy on mules. And then we can keep taking periodic planetaries at new bases to do things like transfer SCVs whenever bases actually mine out. Right now, all the SCVs are looking amazing. Every base is very well saturated. All efficient SCVs off of 82. and just literally keep making supply. Every time you lose shit, just make supply. Microing right now is not our biggest goal. You can, and I will say it's okay now. I will say this. In Platinum League, it is okay to look at your army, but I do not want you to do things like green box micro, green box micro, green box micro, green box micro. Do not do that. But now you can do things that are intelligent, like for instance, there's rocks here. Kill the rocks. So now my army doesn't single file into his base in like some stupid formation. If his army was right here, we don't have to necessarily take that fight. We can move around and go to the other side. As long as you periodically upkeep your base. Like if we're max supply, we don't have to worry about building supply depots. If we're max SCVs, we do not have to worry about making SCVs. If we're you know, if our production is at the optimal factory count, which is somewhere between like 20 to 24 for literal remaxes repeatedly, we don't have to worry about factories. If our upgrades are 3-3, we don't got to worry about upgrades. The only thing we got to worry about is periodically going back to my base, checking up on my SCVs to make sure they're mining properly, and also spending my orbital command energy on mules and keeping my economy thriving, and periodically adding in like more planetaries and things like that. So the tasks at base at this point are very low. They're a lot lower. It's really just maintenance. The upkeep of everything, or getting everything up to the point it is now, is a lot more like time consuming, but now it's just maintenance. It's a lot faster. And the big one is we can still macro even though we look at our army. We can be like 4S, 4T, 4R for Thor tanks, for Thor, tank, and Hellbat. And this is a big one too. Every time when you know you're about to take a fight, scout ahead with some way. You can scan ahead, or you can literally make like one Hellion drive forward like fast. Just so you don't do something like, oh, I'm walking into like 10 tanks and now let's walk away. You don't want to do that. So some form of a scout in any way, and I'll do some Hellion scouts too in this series for Plat, just to show you guys how that works too, just so people can get visual examples of it. You want to always scout ahead before you commit to a fight, so you don't just walk blindly in fog of war. Well, we knew where we were going before we committed to it because we scanned and committed to his newest expansion. We found the base before we came here. We didn't just walk here blindly. And now we're looking at our army, we siege, and now I don't want you to micro still. The army, what it is now is what it is. It's set up, all my Thors are in high pack payload, all my Hellbats are in Hellbat mode, all my tanks are sieged. We're not really going to be able to do a whole lot of micro here. So now what we can do while this is happening is we can now look back at our base and we can do things like, are all my factories expended? Do I not have enough factories? Do I need more? Make more. Do I need a few more command centers to get to like 8 orbital commands, or add in planetaries for more bases? Make more command centers. Do I need to change my SCVs around? Like move 2 over, move 4, move whatever, move 1. Change your SCVs around. Optimize everything. Make it all efficient. And then literally try to stay like every time something dies, max, 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 max. Because you're making shit as it's dying. And look, that's a perfect example right there. Look at the supply for the Terran, the other Terran, and myself. When the fight happens, and this is the last thing we'll say, and then we'll move on. When the fight happens, just look at the supply.
My favorite series on YouTube. Thank you so much.
Yo, June, thank you for the 1,000 bits. I'm glad you like the series, man. I appreciate the support. You're a fucking boss. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Look at supply. Look at supply. Our supply goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up. Look at red supply. Goes down, 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 down. And the reason why it's going down, number one, there's 2 reasons. Number 1 is because our composition is well designed against his composition because we scouted. We saw, oh, he's going mass fucking barracks with like 1 starport, 1 factory. So if we go Thor Hellbat, like we already know is really good, and we just mix in some siege tanks with it now, great. Because these Thors can deal with any type of air units he'll make out of this starport, like Medivacs, or maybe even the random Liberator here and there, or even Banshee or whatever. If we make some Hellbats, it's going to be a buffer for our army to just absorb some of the damage, so we're not just getting pounded on our Thors and our tanks right away. Hellbats will consume, to like sponge up the damage a little bit for us while we set up our army. And siege tanks are going to be amazing because the second these things siege, all these barracks units become very susceptible to dying within seconds, as we just saw, right? It's like, okay, well, siege tanks, and look at the bio just evaporate. Look at more bio just evaporate. And now, when we look at supply, there were 1 Marauder and 4 Marines being produced that whole fight. Capabilities of Terran's production is he could make 2 medevacs, he could make a siege tank, he could make 1 Marauder at a time, and he could make 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 Marines at a time. So, you know, like it's producing is very important. You need to, like, if you don't produce like efficiently the whole time, if you don't make this your priority to make sure this is correct, you might, the thing is that's crazy is in Plat League, you might be able to get away with it still in Plat League, but as soon as you get higher leagues, if you don't produce efficiently during a fight, and let's just say you slightly lose the fight, you will actually lose way more than you should because it cascades out of control. This army, let's say I barely killed his base with this army, and then I move over here to kill his third. If he doesn't macro properly while we take a fight, and suddenly I have reinforced my army with my new, like my existing army reinforces with the new army I made. He doesn't really make an army efficiently, and now there's no way he can defend the other bases. He just gets overpowered repeatedly and dies because he didn't macro while the fight was happening. Because time is very valuable. It's so important to macro correctly, which is again the habit we're trying to develop here. We're still not focusing heavily on the micro, because as we can see, we didn't focus heavily on the micro, and what happened? We macroed max. We kept remaxing as his bio was killing a couple units here and there. What happened for him? He stimpacked 2 fucking sides of units on my army and flanked with 2 sides of bio. Everything died. He didn't macro. And even if, like, obviously the game is over at this point, but like even if he did macro, but his supply could definitely be a lot higher than 76. His supply right now could be like 94. If he did macro during the fight, he definitely has the resources for it. Like he could have seriously like 20-ish more supply than he does right now if he would just have macroed all of his production better. And also because look at the bank again, if he would have prepared for a little bit more production, he, instead of being only 20 supply increase of what he would be at, he could maybe be like 40 supply increase of what he's at, because he could have had an extra like 5 barracks or 1 or 2 factories, important tasks. And if he doesn't macro properly, how the fuck are you going to micro 76 army supply against maxed? Like it's not going to work. The less you have, the more likely you're going to lose, no matter how good you are at micro. So macro is still the god task. It's the top task that doesn't get replaced like ever. You have to macro all the time. It never goes away. It's just being able to balance multiple things with your macro, not neglecting your macro and then doing other stuff. Anyways, that was a lot of information. Platinum is a lot more of an intricate league than gold. There's a lot more things to talk about. Yo, Petsy, thank you very much for the 2-month sub. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Protoss. Protoss is our opponent. Okay. I thought today was your day off, Vibe. It was, but I haven't taken a day off in like the last 2 months, so pretty standard for me. Pretty standard stuff. Pretty standard stuff. Don't hurt me too bad.
Additional supply depots required.
Okay, so next SCV that gets built, go to the Protoss's base. We make the barracks with our SCV, and yeah, we rally our command center back to our middle line. We're going to be scouting and we're going to be analyzing what's going on. I'll try to do it very briefly again in the actual game we're playing, but I'll really break it down again in the replay when we get out of this game. We doing 24 racks Reaper build? No. Negative. This is not mass Reapers. So we are gonna make a Reaper though, just one. We're not making 24. We're just making the one, dude. Just the one. Okay, let's look at his base. Run my SCV over here for just a second. We can like shift move it so it's gonna be safe. Let's take a moment here to build a expansion. Okay? Now let's look at his base. We see one gas. We see a double gateway and a core. Okay? So far that means he's going extra production early and less on the macro side. Let's go ahead and send a new SCV to expand. Let's go back into his base one more time. And let's also make ourselves a factory. He's chrono boosting out a gateway. So here's how we can react to this, okay? Here's like, think about it like this. What would be a... Or actually, let's get our SCV out of his base. What am I doing? We just go back with the Reaper now. So we see... Okay, there it is, finally. We see the natural. This isn't too crazy. Nothing too scary is happening. He blocked my gas. It's annoying. He expanded, and he's got 2 gateways. His expansion's a little bit delayed, but the fact that he made an expansion means that, you know, we might get attacked a little bit, but it's not going to be anything too crazy. We should be okay. We see a zealot, we see a stalker. We'll leave. We'll come back in his base again in a moment.
Not enough.
Also, because he blocked my gas in my main, a great way to fix that is just build a gas at your natural, and suddenly we have gas again. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Swap my factory with my swap my factory with my tech lab. And here's what we're gonna do. If this dude had not expanded to a natural, and let's say instead he would have went for like a robo or like even a 3rd or a 4th gateway, chrono boosted his core. If he did something that looked like he was gonna be really aggressive and attack me, what I could have done is I could have made a bunker and I could have just started making Marines and loaded a bunker up to be safe. But because he showed us the natural finally, we're not freaking out too hard, and we're like, cool, this guy's expanding. He's playing a macro game. We're gonna chill. We're gonna chill out, dude. We're chill. Easy. Now it's been a little bit, so we're making a 3rd CC. He's playing economy. We're playing economy. Let's go back into his base and let's try to get a scout off again. Run around his base. What do we see? What do we see? Again, all we're doing right now is making things out of our production. We see probes. We see another gateway. We see more stalkers. We see another gateway. Okay, my Reaper's gonna die. That's a lot of stalkers, guys. And you know what's good against stalkers? Siege tanks. So I think we'll be okay. Our money's not been optimized on or utilized the best, I would say. I'll go and admit that right now. I apologize. But it's okay. What this looks like is it looks like a timing, right? So let's go ahead and do this. If we're gonna get hit by a timing, what do you think would be a great response to that? First thing we have is we have siege units like tanks, which are going to be great at dealing with a timing. Second thing we can do is we can make a wall so that he has to break through a wall to get to my tanks. Suddenly, tanks are really effective. If he was not going for a timing, I would not have prioritized this wall as hard. But we're doing a simple reaction to a simple decision by the Protoss. Which is, I want to attack you, let's go ahead and now, if he's going to be aggressive, let's make a wall. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, boy?
Go ahead. SCV ready. Bad news.
So now we're chilling. And again, we're going to give it a second here. We're going to start going into Thors now because we have enough tanks once again to be safe from any type of a timing. But again, now we're going to start going into like Thors, going into Hellbats. And let's go ahead and scan right here. This is going to see if he has a third base and what else is in the main. There's no third, and there's nothing else in the main. This means there could be more tech being thrown down, and it might be more aggressive. Let's go ahead and build turrets. The reason why we're going to build turrets is for 3 reasons. 1 is we can kill observers. 2 is we can deal with potential DTs if he wants to tech into that now, if he's not going to expand. And 3 is if he somehow goes, you know what, I feel like throwing down a Stargate now. Let's go into Oracle or something. We're good too on that. We're just covering our ass. Because we don't see a third, we don't see an economical development from him. So this is looking more like we need to not take our third just yet. And instead, we should probably prepare for a potential attack. The less economy my opponent makes, because we're comparing it to our own build, right? We're fully saturated on 2 bases and then some. We have tons of SCVs. We might want to just be safe for a second here so we don't get fucked. Because we're intelligently reacting to our opponent's build now. We're making reactions. We're making decisions based off of what we see. Are you still making SCVs? I am. Look at my mineral line. It's 31 out of 16. Let's scan it one more time. It's been about another minute. See that? Cool. Now let's lift off our command center and let's take it. Unsiege my tanks. Now the chances of me getting attacked are a lot lower, but our opponent is starting a third. We will have a fully saturated third. It does not. We're good. We don't care. Let's leave a tank behind. Let's siege a couple tanks ahead. And now let's grab a lot of SCVs. Send 2 back. And we just sent 20 fucking SCVs. 21, 22. They're still being made. We fully saturated our third base immediately. So we're rich, guys. We're fucking loaded. We don't care. But if this guy didn't take a third, and if he would have all-in me right there, we would have been at the best possible situation to defend that, because he was not going for third himself. Get our gases saturated, get our upgrades going.
Additional supply depots required.
And now here he comes, right? Let's move my army towards the attack.
Field depleted.
Okay, he's chilling.
Additional supply depots required.
What's going on? I can't build here.
Nice. Let's go ahead and get some more production going in my base. Let's get like another 2 factories, because our money is getting kind of out of control again. Just ramping it up. Look at my SCVs. We're at 77. We're still not maxed yet, but we're getting close.
Upgrade complete.
I'm going to build a couple depots over here. Let's build a turret over here too, just in case, again, there's cloak stuff. And we can even build 1 turret right here now, so we can deny observers or, once again, DTs. And let's go ahead and take another base over here. Planetary that up. And let's make a turret at the planetary.
Mineral field depleted.
We can also saturate this base too. Why not? Why not? Why not, dude? Right? Why not saturate that base? Look, there's an observer, guys. He's watching me. Let's scan his third now. His army's there. The reason why I said scan his third is because most people will leave their army, like we are, to defend their newest bases. That's just standard. SCV count's 83. Okay, we're done. No more SCVs, guys. We're good. We can start a couple more here. Gases, that is. Alright, let's go ahead and finish off the last upgrades. Let's get blue flame, servos, building armor, range, and vehicle weapons. Now all our upgrades are going. The last thing we actually need is
upgrade complete.
Armor level 2 on mech, because we saw it was almost done.
Complete.
And now that's good.
Base is under
Okay,
attack.
he's killing this command center. It's okay. He saw it with an observer. He scouted it. That's fine. We'll make another one. But now we also know where his army is. So let's unsiege our tanks, hellbat my Hellions, high impact my Thors, and let's go get ready to fuck them up. Let's look for that fight. But before we take the fight entirely, we can go ahead and make a sensor tower. Make a sensor tower. Make a sensor tower. Make a turret as well, because this is his new base. And let's fix our economy. Good. Good. Not good. Send 3 back. And this base looks like we could use more, but let's grab some more off of it now because it's going to be oversaturated. Send him down here. Make a couple gases. Now we're good. Cool. Now let's go ahead and scan. Or not scan, sorry. Let's go ahead and send out 2 Hellions. One Hellion go to the right side, one Hellion go to the left side. Like we always do.
Are you ready?
And look at my money. Money's getting kind of high, right? So before we really also commit to anything,
I'm in a heap of trouble.
okay, there's units on the left side. There's actually a prism on the left side. We can go ahead and deal with that. We see it on our sensor tower. Let's go ahead and grab my army and send it back. If we lose SCVs, it's okay. Make more. We drop some mules on my new base.
Command center upgrade complete.
And we can see his newest base. Bottom middle.
Give us your best shot. SCV ready.
Take another planetary.
Go ahead. SCV ready. Trouble.
And now let's make some add-ons for these buildings up here. Tech lab, tech lab, tech lab, tech lab, 2 reactors. Mostly tech labs and then a little bit of reactors. And now let's watch our army because our production is looking great, right? We have a nice amount of production. Let's take one of these Hellions and let's look forward before we get there. Where? Okay, there he is. Perfect. So how about we do this?
Add on.
Group my army up right here.
SCV ready.
Scan once since my thing died.
Complete.
And the second he turns his army at me, let's siege our tanks.
Research.
Okay, or when we get to his base to zone him out. We're at the buildings now, siege our tanks. Go back to maxing repeatedly.
It's heating up out here.
Grab some SCVs, saturate the gases properly. Max repeatedly. Do not let your supply drop ever.
Maximum supply.
We can get upgrades. Keep maxing over and over and over.
Unacceptable command.
More is here.
Make a planetary here. Keep maxing supply. Let's make a planetary and an turret. GG. And a sensor tower. All that good stuff. All we're doing is maxing, 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 maxing. And if we max out our factories and we still have a lot of money left over,
Mineral field depleted.
we would do this again. Factory, 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 factory.
I can't build here.
Make that production go higher. Hey, we're fucking good, dude. Hey, you're good. You don't give a shit. 16 factories. That's a lot. And you're good to go. You'd be good to go. Yo, Orjang, thank you very much, dude, for the gifted sub. Hell yeah. Thank you for the game vibe. Protoss is my worst race. We'll get there. Yo, 10 to... oh, are you the guy who just played? Oh, I see. Yeah. What's up, dude? No worries. I thought you were saying, like, you wanted to see Protoss. Okay. Guys. Oh, my God. Ricky Bobby with the...
Thanks for doing this on your day off.
Ricky Bobby with the fucking 10,000 bits. Oh. Ricky Bobby. Look, you're giving emotes to everyone, too? Holy shit. You just unlocked 150 emotes to people in chat? Jesus, bro. Thank you very much for those bits. Oh my God. Oh, happy to be here. Happy to be here, dude. You just gave me an early Christmas present right there. Thank you so much, dude. You're a boss. Oh. All right. Okay. Guys. Let's look at this. Okay. The burrito funds have been replenished. That's right. Oh my God. Oh my God. Whew. It's spoiling me, dude.
SCV ready.
All right, guys. Look. 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 You looking? Are your eyeball? Stop looking at me, okay? I know you want to look at me. Look at the screen up there. All right. Look up there. Stop looking at me. Like, hold on. Ooh, stop looking at me, dude. Look up there. I know I'm ripped. I'm jacked. I get it.
Our SCVs are under attack.
Okay, no, for real. All right, we'll talk about this. And, yo, I just got to say it one more time. Ricky Bobby, thank you so much, man, for the 10,000 bits. That's amazingly generous of you, dude. You're a boss. All right. So, again, guys, we scouted a Protoss who is double gateway, cybercore, no natural yet. And here's why, okay? This is why. Once again, let's think about this. Think about this. If you do not know costs, the building cost of things, check this out. This is why we know there is no nexus, again, so far. Even though we went by it, we didn't see it at first, but we know there's no Nexus anywhere on the map. We know that there could be a Nexus coming down eventually, but we know there's no Nexus yet. Look at our command center. It's 29 seconds into production. Okay? It's a 71-second build time. I'm just going to let you guys in on a secret. Command center and a Nexus have the exact same build time. Okay? They have the same cost and the same build time. It's 71 seconds and it's 400 minerals. All right? Now, in his base, what do we see? We see gateway, pylon. This is the exact same cost as a supply depot and a barracks. But here's the difference. We see second gateway and cyber core. This is the same cost as 2 more barracks. Obviously, the cyber core is a tech building. It doesn't cost any gas, but it does cost the same amount of minerals as a gateway. So this is the equivalent of him going 3 barracks for Terran. It would be like me making 3 barracks. And if I made 3 barracks, look at my money right now. I would physically not have enough money to throw down 3 barracks. It just wouldn't happen. Like I would have to wait for a second to be able to do that. Now, on top of that, this Protoss also made a zealot. Okay? He also made a zealot. On top of that, he also made a gas in my base. So if we look at everything, and we look at everything we have the ability to do, or to have done by the time we took our command center, this Protoss player has a lot of additional costs. To match our costs, it would be 2 pylons and a gateway and the Nexus. We have 2 depots, a barracks, and a command center. But he has the additional cost of the zealot, the gateway, the core, the gas. These are all things that are extra. You guaranteed delays the Nexus. So what does this mean? Okay, why does this make sense? What does it mean? Here's how it makes sense again. If you scout your opponent at any point in time, the only one this doesn't apply to as much is Zerg. Okay, and we'll get there when we get to play Zerg. But against Protoss and against Terran, if you ever scout your opponent is on 1 gas, their build is going to be heavy minerals. Spy Fuser, thank you very much for the 13 months. I appreciate you, dude. What's up? A player who has 1 gas, that is, again, this applies to Protoss and Terran. If you only have 1 gas, it means you're going to do a heavy mineral build. And why is that? It's because Protoss and Terran can tech faster than Zerg can. Zerg has these thresholds of tech that delay making tech units, because Terran and Protoss do not have things like making a layer or making a hive. Zerg does. So Zerg has thresholds where it delays your tech. And again, we'll talk about Zerg later. But with Terran and Protoss, you can tech immediately. You can be like, okay, gateway, okay, core, okay, Stargate, or Robo, or Council. Like your gas costs for Protoss and Terran, if you want to tech, can go up really fast. Which is why if you see someone who has double gas really early, the potential for them to tech really fast is there. That's when you should worry about things like, okay, he could be going fast Stargate. He could be going for an Immortal timing. He could be going for a Prism timing. He could be going for a DTs. Things like this. It makes more sense for things like that. If we see this dude does not have a second gas, which we clearly do, I automatically am thinking to myself, if this guy does attack me now with 2 gateways, the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to be gateway units made straight up off of just the core. And if you guys don't know what a core unlocks, a gateway by itself can only make zealots. If you make a core, you unlock the entire top row of the gateway, which is now sentries, stalkers, and adepts. That's it. Each one of those units can, if you make them, especially if you're making them off of 1 gas, you will not have enough gas to tech as well. So what does this tell me? This tells me one of 2 things, okay? Number 1, if this guy does want to tech, it's going to be really fucking delayed. Super delayed. Once again, what that does is it reinforces my decision to go, let's take a 3rd base, which is why we take a fast 3rd base. Because there's 0 tech that's going to hit me, which means he has 0 ways to get in my base with something that can go over the cliffs. No Prism, because he's not teching. No Oracle, because he's not teching. And yeah, and units, like no Blink, because he's not teching. Things like that. So if he does attack me, again, it's going to be with just gateway units. And that's the second thing. First thing is no tech. The second thing is is he could totally make units, but if he does, it's just going to be a frontal attack. So what makes sense then with building placement? Building a wall. Because what do we have to defend ourselves? We're going to make siege tanks. This is going to be an excessive amount of units early. It's going to be more than normal because most Protosses who want to take a natural usually do it off of one gateway. This guy has double production, so there is a potential chance for a timing. And all we have to do is we do the exact same build, but instead of building depots here, 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 if we build them in a line right there, we like make the siege tank defense like 4 times more powerful than it was before, because now his units are getting slammed by tanks and dying as he has to kill depots, which is not efficient for Protoss units. So this gas and this double gateway told us holes in his build we can abuse. And then on top of that, as we're leaving, we scout his natural, which reinforces the fact that we might get harassed. He has the ability to make units faster than normal. We might get harassed, but he has the intentions of going into a macro game, because this being thrown down right here guarantees, because of limited money that we have in the game, this guarantees that there is not like another pylon over here and we have suddenly like 2 or 3 more gateways and it's going to be like a 4 or 5 gateway all in. Does that make sense? And again, we're comparing it off of our build. If this guy has an expansion and 2 production facilities and a tech building, which is the core, and we have an expansion with 2 production facilities and we have the ability to throw down a tech building as well right now, like we're kind of on even footing here. There's not the ability to have an additional cost of like a pylon here and then 3 gateways, which is 550 minerals. Like it doesn't exist. It's not going to exist in this game at this point. It doesn't apply. So we know that that's not a thing, because we can just compare our build to his build, and that's impossible for him to be, because he threw in the natural, it is now impossible for him to be proxying us. There was still a chance he could proxy us before, but now it's impossible for this exact point in the game. It doesn't mean he couldn't go do it now, but if he did it now, he would miss the window of time to actually do something with it. And then we scout him with the Reaper, and we see that he made a Stalker. This Stalker is a great scout as well, because what does it do? It reinforces that he's 1 gas, and he's also now making a Stalker, which is a 50 gas costing unit, which is guaranteeing that this dude does not have a lot of gas. If this was 2 Zealots, I might be worried that maybe off of 1 gas, he's going to go for like a Twilight Council eventually, and then he'll get like charge or something. And even then, the wall would be great. But because he made a Stalker, he's making gas expensive units, and he's doing it off of low gas count. So it reinforces no tech. So again, we're not worried about like rushing out missile turrets anymore, being like, fuck, oracles, because it does not make any sense. And then once again, between scouting, we're still doing our build as is. It's just we're trying to put logical decisions together now. And now we're making tanks and all that stuff. We made the wall, as we talked about, because again, what was the one thing about his build that seemed scary? Also, I think we missed our Reaper Scout. We should go back and look at that. What was the one thing about this guy's build that seemed scary? It was increased production before his natural. Again, for anyone who doesn't know this, 1 gateway expand is a standard macro build. 2 gateway expand is not a standard macro build. It is at the very least harassment build, or it is a potential timing build. If he goes for a natural and we see that, that's nice. It means it's not an all-in, but it could very well be a timing of a lot of Stalkers, which is actually exactly what it was. This dude was cranking Stalkers like crazy. So what that does is he has to make a choice if he cranks Stalkers out like this, which is there's some type of sacrifice that has to happen. And that sacrifice that he made was he delayed his tech really hard to make a lot of Stalkers early game. And then our Reaper comes in again because we want to get another scout off. And what do we see? We run through his base and we go, okay, he's got a 2nd gas. If we click on it, we can see this gas has mined about 100. It's really like, if you do the math, it's 124. So do you know what 124 gas equates to? Does that make any sense to you? Does that number mean anything to you? And for those of you that don't know how I got that number, every gas starts at 2250. So if he's at 2126, you just have to do the difference, which means he has mined 124. Okay. So now we know he's like, we know he's had this gas ever since we've had our gas, and he's also fully utilizing it with his production of units that he's making, because it is hard to maintain getting a warp gate and also getting like stalkers repeatedly out of 2 gateways with just 1 gas. But the fact that he's mined 124 gas out of his second gas now, that means there is enough gas to either make like another 2 stalkers, 1 more sentry, or 1 tech building that is not a Stargate. He could make a Robo, or he could make a Twilight Council. There's not, basically my point is you don't have to think about everything super elaborately. It's just that what you should think is that this dude does not have a lot of gas. He shouldn't have a lot of gas to work with. It just shouldn't. Okay, like this dude's gas is limited because, again, here's how we can compare it. He's mined about 500 gas off of his main gas, and he's mined about 100 gas off of his natural gas. So 500 and 100. Look at our gas. We've mined about 500 off of our main gas, and we've mined about 200 off of our natural gas. So we're 500 and 200. So we even though he blocked our gas and he delayed our gas and we had to do it even later, we still have even more gas than this guy does. Which means this dude has fucking low gas. Like, we had to delay our factories a little bit because of this dude blocking our gas. It kind of fucked my build up a little bit. But he still even has less than us. So all we want to know is, all we're thinking about is this dude doesn't have a lot of gas. Okay? That's all you should know. Is there's gas count is low. We scout further into his base, and what do we see? We see another gateway. 3rd gateway. And then we scout further in. What do we see? 4th gateway. So the number one thing this is doing to us, and we also confirm that there's a natural here. This is confirming that this dude is wanting to set up a lot more gates to possibly attack me with, because I haven't seen a single tech building. Okay, that's number 1. I have not seen a single tech building. And here's the second reason why this makes sense. My Reaper gets killed by a sentry and 6 stalkers, when this dude has lower gas than we do. Like, this is a very low Protoss gas count. So when we think about this, and he's also making more gates, this makes me feel like this Protoss is going to do a timing now, and he plans on doing one probably pretty soon. And I don't really expect this timing to have anything out of tech involved with it. I don't expect literally any tech at all, because he is spending all of his gas on stalkers and the sentry. And again, if you don't know how much this costs, these stalkers just right here right now is 300 gas, and the sentry is 400 gas. And then we think about the fact that he has warp gates. That's now 450 gas. And then also the fact that he's going into 4 gateways. If he plans on making more stalkers, that's going to be 200 gas every round a stalker gets made. And what is the cooldown of a stalker? It's like 25 seconds, I think. Some shit like that. I think. Let's actually give you the right number. I think it's around 25. I need him to make a unit to see it. Oh, it's 20. Sorry, it's 23. 20. I was very close. Every 23 seconds, he's going to be spending 200 gas on stalkers if he keeps making stalkers the way he is. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. It should just be something you think about, where you're like, this dude doesn't have a ton of gas, and we also scouted. Look at what we scouted to in his natural. No gas. I'm not really worried about tech. What I am worried about is I'm worried about a timing. It makes sense that he's doing a timing, because he's using all of his gas to make units to attack me with. So what is the one reaction we made to our build? I just went, all right, let's just make a little bit of a faster wall now. Let's get two SCVs building depots instead of 1, because again, if there's no tech, how the fuck does he attack me? If there's no robo, which means no robo units, no immortals, no disruptors, no colossus, no prisms, if there's no Stargate, if there's no Twilight Council, how can he attack me? He can attack me with zealots, stalkers, sentries, and adepts. And none of them have upgrades, which means no blink and no charge. So how can he attack me? He can walk to my door and run at it and see what happens. Which means if I make a wall, this is the only way he gets in my base. Making a wall as Terran is always kind of a good idea. And as well, We're going into more factories to make, like, you know, like Hellions and things like this, and keep advancing our composition even more. But it makes sense to prioritize our wall right now because of what we have seen in his base. This looks like nothing but a timing. So we should build the wall. You should build the wall. You should Donald Trump the shit out of your base. Look at that. Holy crap. And he runs away. And then now, at this point, so now, once again, we're going to be in the dark, right? This Protoss player just tried to do it. Like, all we know, this is all we know, okay? All we know is that this Protoss player delayed his gas. He delayed his gas. All right? And then, after he delayed his gas, he went for a timing. The timing failed. He didn't lose his army, but the timing backed off. So now what we should be scared of is we should be scared of one thing. Here it is. This is how your brain should kind of operate at this point. This Protoss player, his build was set up to do a timing, which is what he just went for. He had tried to attack me. It didn't work out for him because we had a nice setup, but nothing died. We weakened it, but nothing really died. So what if he makes more stuff and he does another timing, but this time, since more time passes, let's say he takes his gases at his natural and he adds tech to it. That's something we need to know. We need to know if this is going to turn into like 6 gates in a robo and he's going to go massively all in with this after this point and like 2 minutes from now. Or is this guy going to take a third base? That's the other thing he could do. Number 2. He could, like, he's going to probably eventually take his gas at some point because you're supposed to keep making workers the whole time until you're at like an ideal position where now you're literally just going to all in over and over. This was not an all in because he expanded. Just keep that in mind. If that was an all in, he would not have built this base, and instead he would have done the thing we talked about earlier where he would have like proxied gateways and he would have went one base all in. That would have been an all in. But because he took a natural, what he just did is clarified as a timing, because that was not intended to kill me, because he was still making workers during the process. He invested into economy, which delayed his timing. He weakened his attack to invest into the future of a macro game. Those are timings. Those are not all-ins. So now we need to know, is he going to turn this into an all-in at this point and just stop making workers altogether and go fully attack mode? Or is he going to take a third base? That is what we should be thinking about. And what's the best way to react to these? If he all-ins me, if I'm more turtled up and I'm more, like, you know, defensive, I will have a better chance to kill an all-in. If he expands, it means he, once again, if he attacks me, it's more of a timing again and it's not super aggressive. So if he takes a third, it means we can also expand to our third and we're safe. It doesn't matter anymore. We're good. The only thing that would change this, where I would still expand if he didn't take a third anyways, would be if we got enough supply and enough units where we still felt safe, even though this dude didn't take a third at all. And we were just like, you know what, even if he attacks us and we take a third, we're still going to win. It's fine. And that would be probably like, you know, a little bit later once we had like maybe like fucking 110 supply or something. Ideally though, you want to kind of like the thing is too, is if this guy were to go all in, but he like sits there and waits forever, that's not necessarily good for him either because we are actually still expanding our economy. He's not. We could do something like if he was all in, we could make depots here too. And then like put tanks behind that too and we're good. That could be a great way we could deal with someone who goes all in, all in, all in. And we can see, look at this. There's no third yet, right? There's no tech over on the side of his base. And there's also still no third. That's great for us. That is a very comfortable feeling because we're still turtled up on 2 bases. There's a potential of tech now, which is why now we're making turrets. We don't know if he's going to go into, again, DTs, observers, or some type of a Stargate unit. So this covers our ass against anything he could do from the from that resort or that kind of a unit. But now what we are doing though is we're producing workers off of 3 bases, even though we're on 2 bases, because we have the ability to lift off. And we're even making a 4th command center. We're still advancing our build pretty fast. But again, we're still in the dark and we're going to give it like another minute and then we scan again. Same spot. because we want to get some type of an idea on tech if we can, and we also want to see if he's taking the third. And this time, no tech. There is tech here, and look what we see. It's a gateway. So this dude is committed to ground pretty hard. And we also see Archon now, which means there's definitely Templar tech involved in the game now, which is why we build turrets even more. And that's why we build a turret right here in a little bit when we set up our army. But this could be High Templar or Dark Templar. You don't know. All it takes is Templar tech to make Archons, and Archons are the same thing either way. But this is a big one, okay? This is little factors, the extra gateway and the fact that we now know Templar tech is here. These are little things, but the big thing is this. The third base. We should feel very confident right now that we are ahead now, and here's why. This Protoss player is not done making a third yet. And again, we're comparing his build to our build. It's a curve, right? If our build is the curve, this is the comparison. His third is not done yet, and here's why that's important. He has not made any probes out of a third base up to this point, and it still won't be done for like another 20 minutes. However, we have been making SCVs out of our third base for a long time. So look at our mineral line at our natural. We have 31, which means we are going to be able to fully saturate my third base and as soon as we transfer. And now it's safe to transfer because he's investing into economy. Look at his natural mineral line, 18. We are definitely ahead in workers. We know this for a fact because his third is so late. That's a guaranteed good feeling for us. It's the same thing as the other the other player we saw the last game, the Terran player who was, his mineral line was weak looking. It was not that well saturated. So now it makes us feel very confident that we're just really far ahead. And as long as we just keep the build running, we keep building shit, we're going to be good. Like keep doing everything we did in gold, in silver, in bronze. But now we're trying to get it like in more intelligent reads again. And look at that mineral line. It's amazing. And suddenly, look at the economy up here in top right, or the top left, I mean. It's just going to fly up for Terran, for blue. We know that these are what the numbers look like because his third was not done yet. And by the time it is done, he's going to start, like he might transfer some probes to it, but guaranteed we're still ahead because his third timing was so late compared to ours. Which again, even before anything's really happened, like no units have really died, we should feel confident right now for two reasons. Okay? And this is again the curve of the build. Think about it like this. Like again, I keep saying curve. It's kind of like the school term. Like you're grading his build up compared to your build. Our build was more efficient than his. Why was that, you ask? We went one barracks command center. That means we are going to develop our economy faster than he is, to develop the mid game faster, because we have less costs early that are going to deviate from worker production. We know our natural initially was faster than his natural because he went double gateway. And his natural was thrown down like 30 seconds later than ours or something like that. But he still did make one relatively early, so we know we're not massively ahead. We just know we're a little bit ahead. But seeing how late his third was reinforced how ahead we are now with our third timing, which would make me think our build is a decent amount of supply ahead. And again, if I couldn't see supply up here, I know it's cheating because I can, but I would say because of how late his third was and how a little bit more efficiency we were in our opener of our just the little bit of a lead we had in the beginning, I would say a good rough estimate of supply lead we should be somewhere between 20 and 30, honestly. Because the game is still relatively early, but 20 to 30 supply when both players are near 100 is a pretty big deal. And it's apparent that we have the lead right now because of third timing. Because this is no longer an all-in game. This is a macro game. The fact that he invested into a third base, this is not an all-in game. This is, again, a timing. This is not an all-in. He might attack because he just wants to attack, but it is not an all-in.
Mineral field depleted.
So then he backs off. Again, he does not lose anything. Really. He lost a couple units, and he backs off. I'm okay with this. Because once again, I feel ahead. I have a fourth base started. My fourth base is going to start being saturated before his third base is fully saturated. I should know that because we have so many SCVs already. Look at the worker count. We know that we have a good worker count. compared to what he has. And again, it doesn't matter what our worker count is for us. It's what it is compared to him. The only thing that matters for you, where it's like a good worker count for us, is how close you get to this right here, the maxing out at 1030 thing. That's a good quota to let you know if you're doing well or poorly. Okay, like that's a nice quota to aim for. But the big one is how is our build matching up to his build, and that comes from scouting. Because every game is different.
Mineral field depleted. Command center add-on complete.
And then now, you know, like we're just going about our build. We're gonna max out. And at this point now, all the at this point now, realistically, all you really want to know is the whole idea of scouting. It's really, really important for the opener of the game. It's really important for the initial part of people's builds, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to give a shit about someone's opener. Or sorry, I said that wrong. Scouting repeatedly in someone's base is something that doesn't matter nearly as much when the game turns into the phase that it is now, which is now this is now the full-fledged like macro split map war. Okay, so you have build-up phase, and now you have just production phase of just constant like attacking across the map. Scouting changes at this point. Instead of being obsessed with like tech path, expansion timing, things like that, like the buildup of someone's base, now what you should be obsessed about is expansion location. Because tech path at this point now, when you're max supply, you should honestly start thinking to yourself, anything is possible. Like, I'm not saying that suddenly this guy's gonna have a Skytoss army out of nowhere. But what I am saying is you should only really ever try to scout his composition when you kill his composition. It doesn't matter if I see what it is already and he doesn't lose it. Like, why do I have to keep repeatedly scanning it and being like, he still has zealots, he still has zealots, he still has zealots. Okay, he still has zealots. Like, he has fucking zealots, and we know this. We know what his overall composition is. The only time I should ever look for a transition of units is when his army takes a trade and dies. And then I might be like, okay, are you still making this kind of army, or are you actually transitioning to something else? That also comes from amount of expansions. This is something we will talk about. We'll delve more into this in like probably Masters League or Diamond League, because you can also predict if someone's going to transition or not, because you can tell how much money they have. Because here's the rough concept of it. Okay, this is the rough concept. Keep with me here if you can for a second. This is good logic, okay? Think about it like this. If I can read a build and I know I'm ahead, which is for all the reasons we've talked about, I know I'm ahead. You should know you're ahead because of the reasons we talked about, okay? You have to understand that. And if you don't understand, you know, just watch it again and re-listen to the reasons we talked about. Anyways, knowing that we're ahead, if we now force fights to happen repeatedly and we keep slamming his army, the only way he does not die right then is if he remakes army out of his current production facilities over and over and over. The only time you should ever expect somebody to do a tech transition is if one of two things again happen. Number one is you're the one who's behind, and you know that they have more money to work with than you do, and now with that extra money that they have, they can transition if they want to after a trade. So that gets ruled out if you know you're ahead. It doesn't apply because your max is not their max, and you can bully them and force them. It's like poker. You can just bully their fucking smaller chip count. The second reason, okay? Knowing that you're, knowing that they're not going to have a tech transition is, fuck, what was I going to say? Jesus, I like just kind of lost it here. Jesus. It's just, it was going to like talk about it a little bit of a different way, but it's basically just the same thing I just said, more or less. I was going to reiterate it some other way, but it's just when you max, shut up, chat. When you max, you can literally attack. And if your opponent goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make Stargates now. they're going to, instead of making a new army to replace what they just lost, they're going to make production. And not only is that going to be a lot of time that needs to be had to make that other shit, but also that's going to be a lot of money invested into a different entire tech path and also enough production to sustain it. And they're going to lose all their bases in the process. You eliminate the ability for them to what's it called? To tech switch. No, I remember now. Sorry, I just remembered what I was going to say. The second part of it is where you can guarantee that your opponent doesn't tech switch is if you just, at this point now, when you know you're ahead, if not only you force fights to happen, but you also scout for new bases and you keep crippling your opponent's economy, it means that they'll never gain an edge to tech switch if you're ahead. So you know how to just repeatedly kick your opponent's legs out from under them over and over and over when you're ahead. That's what I was going to say. You can control their economy by forcing fights. So that's when right now it's really important, instead of being like, scan his base, scan his base, scan his base, I need to see tech. All you do is go find his expansions and attack those and repeatedly kill them. And that's all it comes down to at this point. Because you can not even see what he's doing, but you know what he's doing because you have a good read on the game. So scouting gives you a lot of knowledge as to like if you're actually in a good or a bad spot. And it's not, again, it's not as simple as what units is he making. It's also like how fast has his economy been? Like how does he scale up to me? Do I know I'm ahead or do I think I'm behind? So if you guys have ever watched my stream and I predict people's supplies, a lot of times I'm pretty close to being right, or I'm exact. Just by saying like this guy is probably at 95 supply and the Protoss is at like 98 or some shit. I've done that a lot before. And it's because you just compare their build to yours and you kind of like, you start getting a good feeling as to where they should be if you not only compare their build to yours, but then every time a fight happens, you subconsciously try, or not subconsciously, you just kind of like, you just estimate how much supply probably just died for them. And again, that knowledge comes from knowing how much supply units cost. So if we kill the Prism just now, okay? We just killed the Prism. For fun, let's talk about this. That Prism, we saw what was in it too. This Prism has an Archon and an Immortal inside of it. Do you guys know how much supply this is? If you don't know how much supply this is, I'm going to tell you in a second. But this is something, once again, that these kinds of numbers will help you identify if you're ahead or behind. And let's just say, hypothetically, we just maxed out. And we know we're ahead of our opponent. Nothing's really died yet. I would say with my current economy, at this point in time, I should probably have like a 30 to 40 supply lead just because. And if this guy loses this Prism, which is, the Prism is 2 supply, the Immortal and the Archon are both 4 supply. If he loses this is 10 supply dead. So if we're like at a 30 to 40 supply lead and he loses 10 supply, now that should be a 40 to 50 supply lead. So we should be estimating his supply right now is going to be between 140 to 150. Estimations. It doesn't have to always be exact either, but you should at least know a ballpark. Like when I say 140 to 150, that is pretty close to being exact. But like you should just know, just for the simple fact that you go, well, I macroed faster than he did. I expanded faster than he did. I know I produced workers faster than they did. You should at least feel comfortable. You should at the very least in Plat League be like, I feel good. I feel like I'm the one in control here. And then if your opponent throws more units away before you max out or just as you max out, you should feel like your lead expands even further. And then now finally it's really just, we're looking for, we were scouting for bases and we found his army. So we know where we're going. We're attacking this base. And then he gets really passive. So we just, like, if the second he wants to attack us, we siege our tanks. But if he keeps running away, all we do is we get either, there's like 1 or 2 engagement priorities. Number 1 is if he turns around and attacks me, we siege our tanks. The other one is if he backs up and backs up and backs up and we get in the range of killing one of his bases, we siege our tanks. Either one works. And he let us siege tanks on his base, and then he tries to come back. And again, at this stage, all it comes down to is remax, remax, remax. And this is Svile, thank you for the 22 months, man. This is a term that I will use for you guys in the future. And we will really hammer this to the fucking ground, and I really want everyone to like understand what the hell's going on. But the idea, the concept of what we're doing is this is like indirect scouting. It's a lot of people when they talk about scouting and they're learning StarCraft, or I even have had this conversation, I'm not even kidding, with people in GM or people in Masters League. They will say things like, how do you know that this Protoss player, like let's just say that, I don't know, let's just say this, okay? We'll just give you an obscure example. They'll say this: how do you know that right now that this Protoss player isn't just going like Skytoss? And it's indirect scouting. They'll say something like, well, you actually haven't you have not scouted his base in the last 2, 3, 4 minutes. We'll say 4 minutes. You haven't scouted his base in like 4 minutes. And that's more than enough time. If we're talking about a gateway build, or a Stargate build time, that's 43 seconds. And a fleet beacon is 43 seconds. And if you haven't scouted in 4 minutes, he could easily have some like Tempest out now, or some carriers, or fucking whatever. Let's just say hypothetically that was going to be a good idea for Protoss to do right now. You could tell that he's not doing that, which is indirect scouting, because we're forcing reactions out of Protoss, because we're basing his build off of our build. If this guy would have gone into Stargate units, and he would have been behind us from the get-go, and then suddenly, I'm a doll. Thank you very much for the 5 gifted subs, dude. Oh my god, much appreciated. Love you. Thank you, man. Oh, welcome, guys. Welcome, VFam. But if this guy goes into if this guy were to have gone into Stargates, this is where this makes a lot of sense. If we know he's already behind us, if we know that this guy his build has not been up to par with ours, because we efficiently made better choices throughout this game, so we know we're ahead. If this guy would then also be behind and go, you know what, fucking tech switch. I just committed to going Archon Immortal Charge Lot, but you know what? I'm done. We're going for Skytoss. What that would mean is if he's behind already, there is so much cost there to transition to something else that his army would be so fucking small that no matter what, if we max out an attack, if his supply was going to be like 160 because he's behind, he has a better chance to not die if he does not tech switch than if he did tech switch, because if he didn't, he'd be 160. If he does tech switch, he'd be like 120 supply. Does that make sense? That's why you can tell that even if this guy did some shit like that, he would still die. You could still bully him and kill him at that point. And if someone out there is like, I don't understand, where are you getting 160, 120 from? 160 would be like the difference in supply, where you're kind of estimating the fact that you know you're ahead in economy because of all the scouting we did up to this point. And if someone invests all their money they're currently still making into a tech switch, you cannot also upkeep all of your current production in tech switch. It's too expensive to do both things. It's the cost of things. It's like how we talk about how you can't have fucking nexuses everywhere and proxies simultaneously with Stargates while you're doing a macro build. Like, you have to pick and choose in this game what you're doing. There are costs that match time. And if my build is the curve and we just maxed and I know I'm ahead as well and we didn't tech switch, that means if I'm 200 supply and I didn't tech switch and I know I'm ahead, I know I can guesstimate the amount of supply that I am ahead, which would make the 200 to 160 difference. But if I didn't tech switch and he does, that's another deviation from his supply going up, which is where we get another drop off of supply. And we can guesstimate, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it could be like now he's at 120, like another dip in supply. If we just guesstimate, like if it's like 5 Stargates and a fleet beacon, 5 Stargates is 750 minerals and gas. And a fleet beacon is 300 minerals and 200 gas. That's a lot of fucking resources. Okay? It's a lot of resources. So we know there's no way there's anything else going on. It's just, again, and I know I see people in chat saying, players don't have the ability to consume all this. It's too long. You can watch this 1,000 times in a row. But what we're talking about is we're really talking about the idea of how you can understand what your opponent's build is based off of your own build. And it comes down as simple as, does your opponent go for something aggressive while you go for macro? And do you not take any damage? You're ahead. That's what happened this game. That is literally what happened this game. And then we ran with the lead the entire time. We ran with the league the entire time. And that's really all it is. The curve. It's literally a curve. It's your build compared to their build. And anything they do that is deviating from economy when yours is not means if you don't take damage, you guaranteed are ahead. Da, da, da. And yeah, that's where we'll leave it for that one. We will talk about this more and more. We'll keep explaining this concept in more Platinum games and also in Diamond. But simple understanding of knowing how to read your opponent's build to your build is very important. It's very important. And again, the most basic way to look at it is, was my base before his? And how many workers do I have compared to how many workers does he have? If you have 20 workers on your base and he has 10, you have a little bit of a lead. If you have a third base that's fully saturated and he doesn't even have one at all, you're way ahead. Things like that. Just compare your build-up of your economy, and that tells you who does or doesn't have the lead. And the way it gets solidified is if you know you have an economy lead and your opponent does an attack and fails, you pretty much have the game won at that point. Like, it just ends because you now know your lead is now not going to be contested, and you now get to max and bully him all game. The only way you lose that game is if you make some horrible choices. Like, you make some really bad choices with what you're doing, and that happens. But yeah. Hopefully you guys are starting to, you know, like, I know it does sound a lot. Like, it does sound like a lot. But this is something we're going to talk about a lot now. This is something we're definitely going to talk about a lot, because this is what makes Diamond players. I think Platinum players can still get to Diamond with no knowledge, but we're starting to develop knowledge here, and we're going to expand it even further in Diamond. But I think this is one of the biggest problems with Diamond players, is they don't know what the fuck is going on. So we are definitely diving really hard into expanding your mind on how to read things. But anyways, that's where I'll end the video. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next Platinum 2 video. Until then, have a good night. Have a good day. Much love. Peace, guys.